welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And today, today, it's later than we usually record, and I'm just feeling mellowed out but energetic, but mellowly energetic.
mellowly energetic.
Yeah, that's it. Go, 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 go.
I'm not. I had my iced coffee. I put 1 pump of vanilla, 1 pump of hazelnut.
As you do.
It's a flavor blend. That's how I'm feeling. I'm Trevor Keyson.
I was going to say, who's doing all of this lovely
I'm a
coffee
super
work?
chub, and yeah, I'm a iced coffee boy.
My name is Michael. I'm a super chaser. So
Take
how
that.
about that? And it's 6 p.m. Everybody, this is not how we normally do things, but we're striving for the best. Only the best, no matter what time of day it is.
Hey there, my name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am a healthy boy. I have just come out of 3 days of a fever, and I ate eggs today.
Wow.
I have protein in me. I'm so excited.
Oh my God. I mean, Don, there's other ways to get protein in you that don't require you to have to keep it down.
Yeah, that involves testing after. I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
No, you know
Welcome
when
to the show.
I'm sick when I quietly drag the chocolate babka I bought the day before I got sick into my bedroom, and 4 days later is untouched.
Oh, no.
What?
And you lived?
No. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in once again. Tuning in, that's not relevant to anything anymore. You don't tune anything. You just hit play on your
I tune in every time I dial my tuner and my phone.
As do we all.
Yeah.
We have a show.
Yeah.
We have a show to do. We want to thank our
Oh, sorry. Are we thinking? Yeah, well, thanks. Let's give thanks.
We want to give thanks, everybody. We want to give thanks to our patrons on Patreon for supporting us. You are the best patrons in the world, and we like your patronage. So thank you, patrons.
And
Patreon
non-patrons.
And to the non-patrons. We don't say that often enough. Thank you, listeners. Listeners in general. You guys make our big fat gay world go round. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com. There's lots of content on there already. We have old minisodes that have never been released to the public, just for the patrons. We have some behind-the-scenes content. We have Cutting Room Floor, which is all the fun stuff from the episodes that doesn't quite make it in, but is maybe still worth listening to.
I still think if you enjoy the show, the cutting room floor stuff is usually going to at least make you giggle.
Yeah, it's a nice sort of like put it on in the background and you'll catch something silly at some point or another. And we also have a very special episode format today.
Oh, yeah.
We are starting with a tip. What?
It's
Dun,
yeah.
dun, dun.
News on the flash. So this is the hottest of news.
Very
it's
hot.
Like when your teacher is handing out Xerox copies of a test and it's still warm. It's that level of fresh. So when this episode comes out, NAFA will have just launched their campaign for size freedom, which is in partnership with Dove and Flair.
Wow.
This
awesome,
is very
Trevor.
exciting. This is
And
a
this
big
has
deal.
been in the making for a while, right?
Yes, it is super exciting. It is, you can go to NAFA.org size freedom to see our statement and sign a petition to show your support for the campaign for size freedom. This is super exciting. We're launching this now because there are 4 states, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Vermont, and New York City have pending legislation that would prohibit discrimination based on height and weight and any kind of combinations of those two. And a week from today, when this episode releases, there will be a rally in New York City at City Hall. So February 28th, 9 a.m. Eastern, the steps of City Hall, you can join in a rally in support of Initiative 0209, which would ban height and weight discrimination based in New York City.
Awesome.
And so this is like job discrimination, housing discrimination, public accommodations. New York listeners, show up. This is super important.
Can we rent Can we rent with an iPad on a Segway to go there in person?
I mean, so there is like there was a point when we were like, okay, this is like when we had the final kind of like schedule. I was like, I want to go to New York, and I realized I don't have a jacket. I don't have a lot of pants. So like, I don't know. There's a 30% chance that I will be there in person. I haven't completely given up yet, but I have made peace with like, oh, this is actually a lot of work. Anyway, New York listeners, be there. Be not square. Be hip.
Yeah. Be round.
9 a.m. Steps of City Hall. Look for actually, New York City Hall has like a special rally.
On the third day at morn, look to the east.
Look for the fat people.
You can't miss them, people. You can't miss them.
It's very
I
exciting.
can't help thinking, like, I hope there's like a press brigade ready to like catch the news coverage of this. I want to see.
Funny you should say.
There may be coverage of this. I will say.
Yes.
Once again, we're in the past. Y'all are in the future. I will be updating about this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Stay tuned. Sign the petition and join the fight for size freedom.
Hell yeah. Nafa, Dove, and Flair doing cool stuff.
Yes.
All right. Is it time?
It's time.
It's time.
Wop, wop.
We're all dancing. This is
No one will ever
an
know.
audio medium, but we all really dance to this music.
We actually do.
Yeah. As we lead you into pop culture, starting off this week with a piece from Jezebel talking to Remy Bader, talking about her conflicting expectations around body positivity and how they affected her eating disorder.
Oh, I really love this article. It's sort of, you're a fat person out there living your life, and all of a sudden, because you're not in a hole somewhere, that you're actually in public, you're like, you must be a body positivist, and you must be crusading out there. And wait a minute, you're doing something I disapprove of. Oh, bad body positivist. And she's just like, can you leave me the fuck alone? I'm just existing here. I'm just being fat at the same time I'm breathing. Can you leave the fuck alone?
It goes back to that classic line of the podcast, which is that other people don't get a right to comment on your body. And that includes what they might perceive to be positive comments. I mean, if she's out in the world just trying to do her best and she's a human being, having people, and this is kind of what Lizzo dealt with towards the end of 2020 as well, where people had her kind of on this pedestal as like the icon of, body positivity. And she had to kind of step away. And that's why we changed it from Lizzo Watch to Fat Watch, was that putting that pressure on somebody who is trying to do some good, but is not beholden to anybody and shouldn't be expected to be this icon all the time. It can go both ways. And that's what Remy is talking about as a plus size model and influencer. It's not necessarily like she didn't really sign up for that. She's a model. She's going to be modeling. She's not trying to necessarily always. And it comes up when, for instance, if she says anything along the lines of, I'm maybe not doing so great this week. Like I'm struggling a little bit, or, I'm not in the happiest place right now.
Hey, that's not positive. That's not body positivity. You're being not positive and all that crap.
Because they hold you to that expectation. Like you've got to be our champion. You've got to be perfect all the time, always.
Or the reverse of that, where she talks about, she's wearing a piece of clothing that's revealing. And then like the comments are like, wow, that's amazing that you're wearing
how brave.
How brave. Yeah. I think they might have refrained from how brave, but it's still that commentary of like, wow, if only I had the confidence to wear that.
This reminds me of, there was a stand-up comic I saw with MS that talked about going to a very special summer camp where all of the counselors were mainstream abled people who had a very strong tendency to tell the campers, you're so brave for whatever they did, right? No matter what it was, no matter how simple, they were always praising that. You're so good. How good for you. And it just made them feel sort of belittled.
Yeah.
It
sort of undercuts what you're actually trying to do with that kind of an interaction. It's sort of just, it's like disingenuous or like has a motive beyond what you're actually trying to convey.
It feels patronizing, even if it's not meant to be.
Well, I think it's because it's that surprise that you are doing a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't think you could be normal.
I think speaking to the fat listeners, we need to start telling thin people they're brave for wearing
Yes.
outfits.
Oh, yeah, because it would be so insulting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you go up to like a hot modelly guy and go like, wow, it's really brave of you to wear that.
That was an old joke in the 1950s. Like
Yeah.
literally, like housewives walking through like, oh, what a house frock. You're so brave for wearing that in public.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
Yeah.
it's the backhanded compliment that's been
Yeah,
around for
yeah.
over 100 years, you know?
Oh, handed compliments are the best, though.
Mhm.
You can be so shady.
Wow, I never would have expected that of you, Michael. That's so great.
Most people would have avoided that shade, but you really pull it off. So anyway, cut Remy some slack. Maybe
I don't know.
maybe
Cut
don't
everyone
hang-
some slack and just,
Yeah,
I think, I don't know, realize that
Don't-
people are human beings.
Yeah.
And
We're a
allow
world that
them-
needs some slack right now.
I think also just like we're starting to have more, I don't know, fat people in the mainstream getting normal like appearances and coverage. And I think we just need to realize that no one is a pillar,
Yeah.
a monolith. Like just, I don't know. And just hopefully there's more fat people so we can all carry the figurative weight, so to speak.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to make more fat people.
Oh my.
I mean, there's plenty of fat people. I think we just
Speaking
need
of
to like,
which,
oh yeah.
There's plenty of
There's-
fat
I
people.
think
That's a very good segue.
It's one of our
Dan.
main resources in the U.S.
Yeah.
Very good segue.
speaking of which, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Nintendo has stepped in it once again. Actually, I don't know if they've stepped in it before, but I'm assuming they have. That's an assumption on my
Yeah.
part.
I mean, I think
They
it's
have-
Nintendo
I
and
think
Universal.
it's Universal.
Studios.
I don't know if I blame Nintendo.
No, it's
for
not
this one.
Nintendo. This
could
is
be
Universal Studios, yeah. Or Universal.
Yeah.
We're talking about the amusement park, and we're talking about the big Mario Kart ride at Universal that apparently you cannot fit in if you have a waist measurement of greater circumference than 40 inches.
Oh
Yeah.
Jesus!
Okay, so a listener actually shared about this before it was like getting more press coverage. So thank you to that listener. But I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, so like if Mario were a real person,
Mhm.
I think
I love
his
this.
waist would probably close to 40 inches.
No,
He's been-
above.
He's no, well,
No?
he has been thinnified over the years.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have.
Mario
To-
did
to-
used to be chubby sort of proportions.
Well,
Yes.
see, he couldn't fit in that damn cart, could he?
But
Yeah,
okay,
literally, that was how you were able to see him with the old way they had to animate these things. If he wasn't
Yeah.
chubby, you wouldn't have recognized him as human back then.
But okay, so Mario, let's say he has, he's slimmed down to a 38-inch waist. That means like Wario, Donkey Kong, Bowser, Yoshi cannot
they're not-
fit in these
yeah.
carts.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure was their main concern when they designed the ride. Yeah.
So basically, it's considered that the average waistline in the United States, where this park is located, is about 40 inches, which means that there's a whole lot of people that aren't even skewing that far outside the average who are not going to be able to ride this ride.
No, it's just the other half of the bell curve. Like it's come
Right.
on.
50%. And it's being commented on because people who are typically used to being able to fit on most rides that they ride, not even that far into the plus size of things, are not able to fit on this ride. I think a 40-inch waist, they said, is a U.S. women's size 20. That's kind of the sizing that
Is that right?
we're talking about. That's what it's what it says in the article. I do not personally know that conversion, but that's what it had said. So apparently, Universal Parks and Resorts did respond to this sort of backlash because this is a brand new section of their park, just opened. And they say, we are always listening to our guests and seek to balance their needs against our strong focus on the safety of our attractions. We have a company-wide task force actively working with this community to make changes that can help them safely increase access to our experiences, which to me sounds kind of bullshit. I mean,
Yes.
like
It totally does.
like
No,
safety,
it's-
that's what you're going to tout.
That's PR thing. Every time it's a weight thing, it's always safety.
Yeah.
It's always safety. Fat people make everything so unsafe.
But I would say it would be different if it was a roller coaster. This is a dark ride.
Yeah.
And the speed is simulated through like motion graphics and like wind and stuff. It is.
And Universal does not have a great track record with these things. Like, maybe I'm a little spoiled because I'm here in Los Angeles, where we're close to Disneyland, which, as we've talked about on the show, has a great track record for being able to fit people in the damn seats, right? They're great about it. Universal, like, the ride I want to go on most is the Hogwarts ride, right?
Yeah.
And I was specifically peeled out of that line and thrown into a chair before I could get to the front of the line. And
Which is usually right next to the line where everybody's watching you kind of like try and negotiate whether
and
or
what annoyed
not
me
you
was
can
I fit in the one out front, right? But the one inside, for some reason, I didn't fit in.
Well, that surprises
That's-
me because
yeah.
usually the one out front, and this is according to the article, the one out front is heinously undersized.
So to try and head off.
To try to head
people
off
at the
any.
pass. I think it's just inconsistent is the main takeaway. That test seat is not going to actually replicate what you're going to experience on the ride itself.
I mean, my suggestion is, like, one thing I would love would be for, like, all the fat people in the world who would like to go to Universal Studios to write them and say, I would love to go to your park and enjoy your rides, but you will not accommodate my size. I am a customer that you are missing out on, just to let you know.
The only thing I can think is, so this is, Nintendo Land at Universal. It opened at Universal Studios Japan before Florida or California.
Oh, there you go.
And I think these
They just took it over one for one?
Yeah, that's my theory.
Oh, yeah.
that is
because-
genius. That's genius.
Well, it is consistent. I'll throw this out there. It is consistent across their design language at the Universal. Like the 40 inches is a recurring theme amongst their designs for other kinds of rides. This is not the first one like that.
True.
So it seems to be an internal metric that they use for a lot of their rides. So do better, Universal. You know that you can. You acknowledged it. Let's see if they actually follow up on that.
Fat people are movie fans, too.
But in the meantime, we have
time.
a very special. I feel like there should be like a rewind sound effect for Fat Watch Back in Time.
Back in time. What? Because the eagle could be like a dinosaur scream.
Across the ages!
I think Fat Watch would be a fun ride at the Big Fat Gay theme park.
Yeah.
Peering down from the eagle's nest. Yeah.
See, and during certain times of year, it's Fat Watch Rewind where it goes backwards.
Trevor, where did you unearth this?
Okay, so I found this. Our rewind today is the website of New York Girth and Mirth from, I think it's AOL.
Yeah, it's an AOL group page from 1999.
Wow.
It is I think it's actually 2001 is when it was captured from
Oh,
the
okay.
website. So I used the Internet Wayback Machine. I was just doing research on Big Gay Men's Organization and then like Girth and Mirth. I was like looking back to see like, okay, when were things changing over? What was like just, and I found these websites and I just kind of fell down a rabbit hole.
So for the uninitiated, what is Girth and Mirth? This is how they started, but what are they for anyone who doesn't have
Well,
context?
it actually goes back before this. Again, this is history that I've lived. This is Girth and Mirth New York's website, and they started back in, I think,
78.
yeah, but they're not the first Girth and Mirth. There were other ones around the country. This is just when New York got on board, and New York being a major metropolitan area had a lot of members, and they eventually ramped up and got into the technological age and put things on computer. Out of the Girth and Mirth clubs came the first convergences. These were the events, the weekend-long events over Labor Day weekend. The first one was in Seattle in 1986, I think.
Yes, which had 124 registered attendees, which is like they were so like impressed with at the time. And I was thinking like, oh my God, if there were ever only 124 people registered for Convergence, that would be like they would cancel it.
The thing is, all organizations really, everything starts small, right? And so the first Convergence was only barely over 100. A lot of stuff in the gainer community has grown to 100 and is ongoingly growing. So it's that's kind of how these things work, and you shouldn't be put off when things start small because that's where things.
No, I'm saying that's like just because Bigger Vegas. Was
has over
like
1,000.
900 something.
Oh, more like 1,600.
This past one, was
Yeah.
I think 17 something,
Okay.
record breaking.
But like, so I thought it was amazing to look at, and like, that's why I wanted to share this for like people in the community to see like where these events started, and
Yeah.
seeing, I don't know, I love seeing the old websites, and
That's pretty awesome.
I particularly liked at the end, it's sort of a short account of the history of the organization and its connection with other events like Convergence. And at the end, they talk about, and we entered the computer age.
yes,
They were looking into the future of cyberspace.
yes,
And maybe in the year 2025, which is coming up, they'll be called Chubs in Space.
Yes.
Space.
So a cute little fat watch for this week, a little look back
Takes
in
me back.
time.
yes. Please go to the website and check it out. I don't know, it warms my heart to see, and I think our youth listeners need to appreciate how far things have come. I mean, there's in LA now, we have 2 monthly fat bar nights. There's Fat Slut and Club Chub.
Club Chub.
That's that's huge.
Both great names.
And I think that's actually a good way to segue into our main topic.
Indeed.
Yeah, which is starting with a mailbag. So we have a listener who wrote in, "Hey, Big Fat Gay podcast crew. Just wanted to say a big fat gay thanks to you guys for helping us Chubs stay proud and feel like we are part of something. That's extra hard for Chubs out here in Australia, as there are far fewer of us. I have a question for you guys. I recently got kicked out of a Facebook group called Bears, Cubs, Chubs, Otters, and Daddies Oh My after I posted a pic of myself saying hi and shouting out to the other smooth Chubs. It got me thinking, as hairy bodies and dad bods are becoming more mainstream and desirable, are bears and their spaces becoming less inclusive for Chubs? I know there's some toxic masculinity in there as well. Do we Chubs need to start carving off from the bears in order to make safe spaces again? Or do we need to try to educate the bears? It's kind of frustrating because I think they think they're inclusive and into diversity, but only so long as you aren't fat, super fat, Lots of love from Oz."
I have so much to say. So
yeah.
much
Oh,
to
boy.
say.
I think also
This is thank you, first of all.
Yes.
Yes.
Really,
Yeah.
really great question.
I first off want to say I think the statement of the bear community being inclusive is I think it varies a lot, and I think especially more marginalized people, especially like my friends who are people of color, have a lot to say about the bear community and just kind of the problems with it and how it is kind of. I think there's been a lot of progress. I think there's a lot that needs to still be done, and I think there are. I say there's progress, and I'm sure people disagree with me, and I think it's a whole mess.
It's funny that the listener writes in about, do we need to split off Chub Chaser from Bear? And it's like, in America, they were always split off. They were never the same thing in America. But yes, in Australia and everywhere else in the world, they were like smushed together, or at least from my point of view, smushed together. In the United States, they were always distinct, quite frankly, for this very reason. They're different cultures, they're different aesthetics, they're different values, they're different experiences of life. To be a bear and to be a chub, it's not the same kind of thing.
I think that's more for people in the know. I think like when you're trying to find your way into this world, if you're a chubby guy, you may find yourself into the world of bears before you find the chubby world.
Exactly.
And,
That's because bear is better marketing than fat or chub. And so just that's what you get exposed to, because people will say, I can't tell you the number of times that I've been introduced when I do a seminar, I've been introduced as like, and here from the bear community is Dan. And like, I have nothing to do with the bear community, but you think because I like fat guys, I'm in the bear community. It's a huge confusion.
Well, and it's because, like Dan said, it's a better brand. It is not uncomfortable to talk about. I think especially as like at this point, bear is very much in the mainstream.
Yeah.
And Chub Chaser is not really. And I think it is, I can understand why a 19-year-old or something, or, even just like, I don't know, a 35-year-old, when talking about, sexuality and stuff with their peers or coworkers or whatever, would want to be like, oh yeah, I like bears. End of, period. And then,
Yep.
Sandra from HR is like, oh, like Like John Goodman? Oh yeah, he's a real slice of marble cake. I don't know. I was trying to think of a food and I had marble cake last night. But it's just like, I get it, but it's also just, I don't know, frustrate. Like I totally get it. And I actually had, when I was in college, I was taking a gay studies class and I wanted to write a paper about the Chub Chaser world and everything, and I didn't have enough stuff to work on, and I had enough books because people had written about the bear community, so I did that, and my teacher was like, "Oh, I see you're a bear," and I was like, "Oh God, what? Yeah, yes, fine." And then anytime anything with bears came up in class, she'd be like, "We have a bear in the class."
Oh God.
Oh,
no.
wow. Oh, boy.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So I think it's just so hard, and I think I'm so sorry for our listener that they experienced this.
I was going to say, I feel like I want to just acknowledge how shitty it was that the admins thought that this was like grounds to kick somebody out of the group and make them feel like they didn't belong. And I feel like good riddance. Like, I mean, it sucks to happen this way, but fuck them. Like the smooth chubs of the world unite. Like, have your own group.
I don't know. I feel like I don't feel like good riddance. I feel like that was my space.
There was something else that kind of happened around this time that I think ties to this. And our listeners may or may not be familiar with it. It was a tweet that kind of went viral and then spread around about twink death.
It was like hashtag twink death.
Yeah. So the original tweet was from Twitter user Levi at the Northmans. And he said, "Twink death is a terrifying thing." And he posted a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio, like when he was modeling, and then
Young,
a picture
probably
of
like 19 years old.
Yeah. And then a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio in Don't Look Up.
Playing a character in Don't Look Up who is meant to look sort of Midwestern frumpy dad bod.
Yeah.
And the comparison, of course, is striking because he's quite a bit older. He looks very different. He's scruffy and sort of put on a little bit of weight. Whether it's for the role or in real life, it doesn't really matter. It's the comparison of a young, thin, hot person and an older, hot person. And they happen to be the same person.
And the disparagement of that.
It's called the passage of time. I mean, that should be like, have been the start and end of that. It's like, yes, people look different after, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I think this is why there's always the question of why does the gay community have so many labels?
I think that part of it is it's the labels thing, but it's how do you create your identity? Mm-hmm. And when people feel like their identity is being, threatened or attacked, or their space that they've created that their identity is based around is being altered in some way that they aren't comfortable with because they don't identify with, for instance, the smooth chub who just introduced himself, then they get very defensive because it's an assault on who they are. And that's not who you are. It's just a fucking label. Yeah. Like, it's just a label. You are you.
Bravo. Yeah.
And so if you just accept the fact that the label is simply a useful tool for communicating and nothing more, it's not your identity. Mm-hmm. And then you can start having good interactions with people who don't perfectly fit your label. Because there are, by the way, a lot of people who don't fit either chub or bear, traditionally speaking. They kind of are in the middle. They somewhere, or they don't know, or they don't, maybe they look more chub, but they identify more with the people who are in the bear world. And so like, why do we have to make this the whole identity? Like, can't we get away from that and then have fewer of these negative experiences?
I feel like the hierarchy in gay society plays into this too, where it's like, as long as you feel above one of the other cliques, then you're better, right? So tying this into twink death, twink death as just being a function of age, which means all twinks will eventually age out of twinkdom and move into another hierarchy group, right? And the ones that find themselves moving into the bear group, I feel like they don't want to be associated with chubby guys because chubby guys are so far removed from the twink subsection they once were. And now to be considered in the same group with them is offensive or difficult for them to stomach with their own identity. And so I feel like letting yourself be pushed out of those groups by Twinkie guys moving in. I mean, and this is all my bullshit coming to the surface too, I'll admit. I feel like I don't want to be pushed out of my own spaces. Trevor?
Well, I think what's interesting about the twink death thing is, so it spiraled out, and then I saw a lot of bears and gainers posting like before and afters, like, I killed that twink. And I mean, I don't want to be a twink.
Meaning their former identity.
Yeah, because they used to be twinks and now they're bears or, just fat and happy. And I think that's great. But at the same time, I think, like, I don't want to be a twink defender, but the malignment of twink as an identity, like, how people started saying, oh, I'm not a twink, I'm a twunk, because I think there's some guys who don't age out of twink. I think there are some guys who are kind of like, I don't know, Peter Pan, where they are just forever youthful.
They're boyish into their 50s. Yeah.
And
Tobey Maguire, I feel like, is just always going to have that like boyish.
I'm going to go with Martin Short at 82.
Maybe so.
I think there is like something kind of tragic about hating who you were. And I think it's okay because it's like, I don't know, have some tenderness for your past self.
I think it's bigger than that, because it's what you're saying is completely right, but it's not just their past self, because their past self is someone else's current self. And you're shitting on them, and you're telling them that it's not valid. And that's why that's why I don't like twink death, because it's so obviously negative and almost dancing on the grave.
You're literally telling an entire group of people, I am better now because I'm less like you.
Exactly. And we heard that before. So what I have seen, and I really like this, is I have seen some I think this in the gainers and some of the chubs, they've altered the hashtag from twink death to twink evolution, or twink rebirth, like something a little more positive, or a little more like that. I get it. There's another stage, or there's another section of my life, which goes along with the physical appearance. And I think, and that I can get on board with.
This is tangential to this, but I feel like I have to bring it up, though. I will say that I have been in multiple environments with Twinkie, in-demand, young, hot gay guys that were wildly unfriendly to me while they were in that state. And then when they got older, started gaining weight and started losing a lot of that attention, they just assumed a friendship with me that never existed beforehand.
That's really shitty.
But I was just like I hated their guts, and they just assumed we were friends.
But I would submit that had nothing to do with their physical attributes. They were just shitty people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because believe me,
yes,
I don't think it's that they lost their looks and now they'll deign to be friends with you. I just think maybe they grew up a little and stopped being so shitty.
I think this is like the bigger thing people say about, like, their experiences with the bear community, of a community that is supposed to represent the people who have been rejected, then coming in and rejecting people for not fitting the standard that was made in response to a standard.
Yeah.
Well, that happens constantly and consistently. I challenge you to find a label that has stayed the same and welcomes all comers at all points in their time. It is inherently about creating a space for people and then being upset when people that you don't think should be in that space come into that space.
I think this is a little different. I think that we're looking at a group, like, we're in a time now where out is in. Right? Like, all the losers are now the cool people. The nerds are the ones, the nerds and geeks are the ones choosing popular culture, and so, like, the popular people find themselves going like, well, I guess bear culture's in. So I guess now I'm a bear. And suddenly the culture that they've always had, which is excluding everyone else, is now in an environment where that's not okay, but they're still doing it because that's all they know.
Well,
I feel it all boils down to people not dealing with their shit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with your shit, you're gonna spew it on other people. Like, if you haven't dealt with the fact that you either were the person in a popular group making other people feel like outcasts, and then you joined the Bears, or you were the one being excluded and now you haven't dealt with the fact that you didn't like that. And so you want to carve out a space where you get to do that. You get to exclude people.
Yeah.
Deal with your shit, people. Like, obviously that's like a big ask. It's never really.
But it's
gonna
also,
happen. But,
it's
like,
also
come on.
it's also up to the rest of us not to swallow their shit when they spew it out.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just mean directed at you. You know, have some solidarity with the community that you have built. If you see someone else being pushed out for reasons that you think are stupid, it's not someone else's problem. It is your problem. You are part of that society. Stand by your person. Stand by your peeps.
And
if any other listeners were in that Facebook group, I wonder if there's something that could be said to those admins.
I don't know.
I don't know what the overlap is, but
Justice for smooth chubs. Like, I don't.
yeah. There's an interesting side note here, which is from Out Magazine, which I think was published in response to the whole Twink death tweet,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
which is that, hey, everybody, just a reminder, twinks have to be gay.
Yes.
That's inherent to the descriptor of twink. And so when you have DiCaprio or Timothy Chalamet or Tom Holland who are in this kind of twink,
And Timothy
visual
Chalamet is
category.
almost inseparable from the title Twink. He's
Yeah.
become the poster child for Twink. Twink is a gay thing. If you are calling someone else a twink, you are imposing a culture on them.
I think it is okay to use people in, like, you know, pop culture as a reference point to describe what a twink is. Because unless you-
visually.
yes. Like,
Yes.
and I think that can be,
I'm even a little bit okay with a straight person self-identifying themselves as being kind of twinky. You know, because you are claiming
I don't know. I am, for some
kind of
reason,
okay
that
with
just
that.
made me mad.
Well, but hold on. Would you have the same opinion if, you know, a straight guy referring to, let's say, his girlfriend is like, oh, she's such a drama queen, which is absolutely comes from the gay community. What would you
I've
have
heard that a
problem
lot.
with? Yeah, would you have a problem
Yeah.
with that?
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't, but I feel like it's different. I think it's also like, so the counterpoint to the, like, you know, twinks have to be gay thing is, I have heard a lot of, like, you know, straight women be like, I want a bear. Like, where
Yep.
are all the straight bears? It's like they're having sex with the gay bears. I don't.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please take a number.
I like, and I don't think that's,
I know more than a few straight bears who I think have just accepted that they're going to be last on women's lists. And it breaks my heart because some of these guys are the best quality guys. If they were gay, I would have gone for these guys in a heartbeat
yeah,
because they are just good men, you know?
I feel like Out is just doing the same thing that the admins of the Bear Chub group did to our Smooth Chub. Like, they're just saying, y'all don't belong here. It's just for the gays.
or you don't get to use that term. Yeah.
You don't get to use
feel
that
like
term.
because no, I feel like they're actually protecting the people that are being labeled that way. Because like Timothy Chalamet isn't running out and saying I'm a twink. It's mainstream culture pointing the finger and saying you, Mr. Chalamet, are a twink, and that's something he can't control. So I don't feel that way.
That's
you know?
that. I think that's a valid take. That is not what Out is saying. Just kind of like reading through how they've written this article, they're talking about protecting their culture.
Yeah, it's territorial. Yeah.
Okay.
That's they're
Well,
marking their
I'm
territory.
coming to the same conclusion from a different direction.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I understand that wanting to protect your territory as an older gay man. You know, it would upset me when, you know, too many straight women would come in the gay bar because it's like it just changes. It changes our space.
I think there's also something to, like, this is kind of like the whole thing with, like, you know, D&D and the nerds. When something that has been historically maligned gets co-opted by the mainstream,
Oh, you mean like
and
body
then suddenly
positivity?
it's cool. Yeah. And, you know, oh my God, Timothy Chalamet, he's a dreamboat, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then twinks in high school who are just trying to survive have been maligned and bullied and shut out. Like, it's just icky.
Oh, so if I may expand on that, does that mean then that, you know, we're using twink in a positive manner because it's applied to a straight person or a person who we're not talking about their gayness, their queerness. But if it does apply to queerness, then it's an insult. Like, oh, I would never be a twink. I'm a twunk, or I'm a bear, or I'm a something else.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
That is interesting.
That does
That's
feel
it.
like it.
Although
that's kind of it.
it's difficult necessarily to make that because we're talking about mainstream culture, and I don't know
If
if
we are.
mainstream culture knows what a twunk is.
Yeah.
You know.
well,
So,
not, it doesn't have to be twink twonk, but it does have
but
to
you
be
know what
the
I
ice-
mean. It's like
No, but this idea that twink has a lot of baggage in the gay community, and I don't think it does in the straight community, and they're free to use it that way. Therefore,
that's true.
the other thing I
see.
would say is interesting is that a lot of when I talk about terminology, especially with chubs, chasers, gainers, fat admirers, a lot of the terminology is duplicated because there was such an impenetrable barrier between the gay side and the straight side. So that's why you have chasers and fat admirers. It's why you have chubs and BBWs. It's why you have chubs and BBHs, big or B8. What is it? Big
BHM.
BHMs, big handsome man. Like there's this division. It's why you have feeders and encouragers. It's such a massive division because the two communities never ever talk to each other. So they invented their own terms independently of each other. And now they've been brought more together. And where straight people are saying twink and are saying bear, and there's a much bigger confluence.
I feel like the most fascinating illustration of that division that's also very relevant to our show is that I think the number one search term, Trevor, correct me if
yes.
I'm wrong here, for finding our website.
Yes.
Like if somebody
Our
goes to
podcast,
Google
yeah.
Yes.
to find our podcast is gay BBW
Or gay SSBBW.
or gay SSBW because
Yes,
they
yes.
don't know the term chub.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it all comes down to is we just all got to come together and have some cocoa
Right now.
and just
Over me.
and I don't know hashtag justice for smooth chubs. Post that in the group, the Facebook group with whose name is too long.
Hashtag smooth chub justice.
Yes. Ooh, I like that. That's better.
Yes.
Smooth
Okay.
chub justice.
And possibly an episode title.
Well, I don't know that we've solved the listener's question per se, but hopefully we've provided at least some solidarity.
Yeah.
We support you, and they were shitty to you, and that sucks, and we're sorry about that.
Yeah.
But to cheer everybody up, Don has a very special bit today that we've been pre-warned about.
Yay! Well, like I said, I've been sick for a while. I didn't have time to do a ton of research. So what we're going to do today is I believe that all of us are sort of in agreement that like the word classification that we use of like bear and wolf and otter can be a little weird. You know, it's not always a good thing. It's not always, I mean, it's not certainly a terrible thing, but it's not always a great thing. But I thought maybe we would just dive into this because it seems so unfair that there are so many animals that are so well represented in the gay community.
Oh boy.
And there are other animals that are just completely ignored. It's not right. So here are some animals that, as far as my research has shown, I have not been able to find a gay meaning for these words.
Okay.
And I think we should figure out what gay men these words encompass.
Oh, I love this.
Create
What
some new
group are these?
labels.
That's right.
Ooh,
I have
boy.
I have come up with a suggestion for each of these that I think is appropriate, but I want to open it up to the floor first. Gentlemen of the Big Fat Gay Podcast, who is a goose?
Oh,
Oh, I think I know.
goose.
I think I got.
Dan,
I got.
who do you think
Ooh.
a goose is?
So a goose.
Oh, I have an
a
idea.
Goose. This is what comes to mind. That slightly drunk, thin white guy at the bar who's like, I just wanted to tell you one thing. That if she ever did that to me again, she is going. That's a goose.
The gay version
Honk,
of the
honk,
drunk white girl.
Okay, drunk version of the gay white girl. I got it. Of the,
So-
of the
Gay
drunk
version.
white girl.
I agree with that, but it is also that person, kind of drunk, messy, but who's also then like really inappropriately handsy.
Can I give a final addition to this?
Yes.
Because the one that where my brain went, I don't know why, but British.
Oh,
Oh, I can
That to
accept
me
that.
is a
I can
goose.
accept that.
And I think these can all come together. These can
Yes.
all be the same person.
It's really interesting because the definition I came up with: someone easily angered by the tiniest slight, overly dramatic, the gay Karen.
oh.
So like
all
we all
right.
kind of come
Oh.
together.
Yeah, that's similar. See,
we all come
Interesting.
together.
well, now
It's
we know
interesting.
why the animal metaphors are so useful.
All right. Our next one on the list, the mongoose. Who among us is the mongoose? Like I said, I have a suggestion, but I want to throw it out to the floor. Dan, we have Dan sounding off first again.
The mongoose is the strong, silent type, guy in the bar, usually beefier, and he hasn't got much to say. But if you cross one of his friends, he will be in your face so fast.
Oh,
yeah, I can see that.
I like that.
I like silent. I saw that.
Trevor?
I don't know. I kind of feel like the opposite, where it is the there's a specific person I'm thinking of. A very
I see where you're going.
argumentative, like short,
this is
argumentative, hairy,
Oh.
like
and unflappable. It doesn't matter what you say to
Yes.
them; they will always
Yes.
still be arguing back. Like,
Yes.
that venom can't kill them.
like the debate me.
It only makes them stronger.
Oh, yeah.
This is interesting because Trevor and Michael's overlaps with mine. Mine was a gay crusader obsessed with politics, civil righteousness, and the greater good, maybe even more than is really healthy for them.
Oh,
I was on board with Dan's description. I saw that, and then as soon as Trevor's flipped it, I was like, no, that to
I
me,
think
like,
I got to go with Trevor's.
I
on
don't
that
think
one.
you're doing justice to the mongoose here. No.
the mongoose. Well, the thing is, when they're fighting the snake, they're like, they're slow, they're still, they're silent, they're watching, right?
Yep.
And then they'll react. But I think in terms of personality, I see the argument.
Well, also I see
that makes sense.
I see the mongoose as the good guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, but what you're describing doesn't sound like the good guy.
Yeah, what Trevor and I are describing is
yeah,
not the good
I don't-
guy.
I think they could be. They could be. They have good intentions, but they might not come out in the right time.
If you say so.
All right.
Dan, you're assuming the snake is the bad guy. That's Snakist.
Well, I just know that
Our
I'm never
next-
going to get attacked by a mongoose.
All right. Our last one. I like my definition for this one. I think this is a hard one, guys.
Okay.
You tell me. Who is the cobra?
Oh.
Ooh.
All right, we got Trevor stepping up to the plate.
So I imagine a cobra is like the tall, muscular guy at the bar who like is really intense, and then you kind of like imagine like you're dancing with them or something, but like you're like, oh, okay, this is like he's kind of weird, like the vibes aren't right, but you're kind of like cornered and kind of like trapped
I like
in
this.
this like
yeah.
like I'm thinking of this guy that I was at a bar in New York, and he like pulled me in to dance with him, and then I was like, oh, like this is not, and I was like trying to leave when he did it, so it was like this nice thing. I was like, oh, like I danced a little bit. I'm like, okay, thank you, but I'm like, I'm trying to leave, and he kept pulling me back, and it was just this really uncomfortable,
Yeah.
like
Have you ever seen anybody with Coke eyes? Like the eyes where they look
I
like they
actually don't know if
just
I'd
did it.
recognize it.
They would like you can see like it's kind of crazy eyes, but like
Yeah.
very specific, intense. It's like overly intense given the context of the discussion
Oh, sure.
or the circumstance to me. And they're no blinking. It's just
Yes.
very intense, very laser focused, kind of past your face. That to me is the cobras, like the Coke eyes. They're just like so intense on you.
This is really interesting. The two of you went in very different directions than I did for this one. My definition was very straight acting guys that go full fabulous under the right circumstance
Oh,
or
interesting.
triggering event.
Interesting.
Okay.
Because they shed their skin.
Yeah, they,
'Cause, well, and
they,
the
they
cobra
reveal
has
who
the,
they
like,
are.
The
Oh, the
cape.
hood.
Yeah.
yeah.
The
hood,
hood
yeah.
expands when they get
Interesting.
excited. So
I like that.
I like the idea of someone who reveals their fabulousness.
I like Trevor's because if you think about like what would be the best way to mitigate the situation he got stuck in with the cobra is like you got to go with them. You got to be like the snake charmer. You
dance.
got to hypnotize them. You got to like slowly hypnotize them down again and like engage with them because if you try to disengage, they'll bite you. You know, that's when you get bitten.
That's called a drunk person, please.
Yeah,
Do
basically.
you guys want to hear about some of the stranger names I discovered while doing research for this?
I was going to suggest Ocelot, but I don't know if you came up with that.
Here's just some weird ones I've never heard of before. Donald Duck is a homosexual male who's dishonorably discharged from the Navy.
Oh, because of the sailor suit.
Okay.
A dolphin
Oh, I've heard of
is
that.
a slender, athletic, hairless bear.
Are they a bear?
Okay.
That's what it
Oh,
says,
whatever.
a bear.
Whatever.
So, Trevor, if a listener had an idea of what could make for the good straight acting gay guy who becomes fabulous animal, where would they tell us that?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars on your preferred podcast platform. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talk about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Well, maybe you're any one of these animals. And you live at the zoo and the lights are down, the gates are closed, and baby, the music starts playing, and you're coming out of your cage. All the animals are too, because it's nighttime at the zoo. It's the rave, and I don't know, the cobra's coming your way. So
watch out, boys.